a general practitioner, a family doctor, one of about 23,000 in Britain. I have 2,000 patients registered on my list under the National Health Scheme. Every man, woman and child resident in the country is entitled to the benefits of the National Health Service, which costs the people of Britain some hundreds of millions of pounds each year, and is paid for partly by charges and by national insurance contributions, but mainly through taxation. The benefits include hospital and specialist care and the local authority health services, as well as general dental and medical care. The health service is a great boon to many people who otherwise would be unable to afford the expense of prolonged medical treatment. Let me tell you something about a typical family on my list of patients and the ways the health service has helped them. This is the head of the family, Eddie. I see him for regular checks on his progress since he underwent a major operation recently. He and his wife have been patients of mine since before their daughter Jane was born. That was at the local hospital about 5 years ago. Although many of my patients are delivered at home by the midwife and myself as a team, I remember advising Eddie's wife to have her first baby in hospital. Like other mothers-to-be, she had made many visits to the antenatal clinic for medical supervision, mothercraft teaching, and relaxation classes. This preparation helped her to overcome some natural anxiety and, despite having a difficult delivery, to find satisfaction in the experience of childbirth. After her baby was born, and before returning home, she was encouraged to spend as much time as possible with the baby to establish sound feeding habits and generally learn how to handle her baby, in common with the other mothers in the ward. After 10 days, mother and baby were homeward bound, accompanied by the friend of the family. Thanks to the health service, she'd been able to enjoy the finest possible maternity service without financial hardship. They were met at the door by the domestic home help, whom the local authorities had provided to help with the household chores on her return from hospital. This is a service that in certain circumstances is available to expectant mothers, to old folk, or for the care of children when the mother is ill. Within a few days, the health visitor came to see her. The health visitor is the family friend, giving advice not only for the baby, but for all the family, and there is no charge for this local authority service. She recommended that the new baby be taken regularly to the local child welfare center. Here, amongst other services, the mothers can obtain orange juice, cod liver oil, and national dried milk at special prices for their babies, and expectant mothers can get orange juice and vitamin pills for themselves. Here, too, mothers-to-be receive mothercraft instructions. They also do antenatal exercises to help them to have the easiest possible delivery. More than 3 out of every 4 babies are taken to child welfare centers for supervision of their progress up to school age. Regular examinations are made by the doctor and a record kept of the baby's progress. Immunization against a number of infectious diseases is also given. And so the years passed, and Jane grew up into a really pretty little girl. But even pretty little girls have to go to the dentist. Jane first had her teeth examined by the dentist when she was 3. Now at 5, they are being examined by the dental officer at her school. Both before and for 12 months after Jane was born, her mother was able to get free dental treatment. For patients generally, except those under 21, a small charge is made for treatment by the family dentist. At the clinic, Jane has her eyes tested. If spectacles are needed, they are provided for all children under 16 and for those still at school. Grown-ups also get their eyes tested free, but a charge is made for the supply of glasses. Of course, from time to time, Jane falls victim to some of the ailments that befall youngsters, and then I make frequent visits to her home. On this occasion, Jane had developed an inflammation of the throat. It's extremely important for a general practitioner to gain the confidence of his patients, and there is no more rewarding side of a doctor's life than the time he devotes to the welfare of youngsters. A home nurse came in daily to give Jane injections and other treatment. The provision of home nurses, when circumstances warrant, is yet another benefit of the health service. The health service also provides whatever drugs and medicines may be necessary for treatment. There is a nominal charge for each item on a prescription, except for patients in hospital. It was about a year ago that Eddie suddenly became very ill, and I was called in. I arranged for an ambulance to take him to hospital. As bad luck would have it, his wife was also confined to bed with influenza. At the hospital, he was immediately examined by a specialist who was in the middle of his morning clinic for outpatients. Incidentally, every effort is made to ensure that the waiting time for outpatients is made as short and as pleasant as possible. After the specialist's examination, Eddie was admitted to a ward and there x-rayed by a radiographer. The consultant's diagnosis confirmed by X-ray and other examinations what I had already suspected, that Eddie should be advised to undergo an operation. Eddie had the finest care and attention in hospital, and everything possible was done to allay his very natural fear of surgery. Before the actual operation, he was given preliminary sedatives before being taken down to the operating theater. The operation was carried out by an experienced surgeon and his assistants, whose services, together with the hospital accommodation, nursing care, X-rays, medicines, and all treatment, were made available to him under the National Health Service. Eddie came through the operation successfully, and soon came the day when he was reunited with his family. He was deeply grateful for the way he'd been looked after in hospital. Every day this scene is enacted at hospitals throughout Britain. There are nearly 3,000 hospitals in England and Wales alone, administered within the National Health Service. There are, for example, the hospitals which provide the special treatment and aids needed by the disabled, whether war pensioners or civilians. Here are some of the patients being given early instructional training in the use of their artificial limbs. There are 21 limb fitting centres in England and Wales, and this one is the biggest, dealing with 1,000 new cases every year. Here, people of all ages, from all walks of life, are helped to overcome what seemed, not so many years ago, insurmountable handicaps. Many different appliances can be provided. After a while, they become so proficient in movement that they can play energetic games, such as cricket. In this hospital, there are patients of all ages, including children who suffer from congenital deformities, and also workers in the very prime of life. there are psychiatric hospitals where modern scientific treatments have achieved remarkable successes, so that the majority of mentally ill patients enter hospital voluntarily and are able to leave within a few months restored in mind and body. Typical of the modern scientific methods is the instrument known as the EEG. This makes a recording of the electric activity of the brain, which is picked up by special contacts fixed to the scalp and written out by several pens onto a moving strip of paper. Each pen writes a wavy line which shows how the tiny voltages generated by brain cells are fluctuating. These fluctuations are influenced by such factors as brain abnormality or injury. From these recordings, it is possible to diagnose brain disorders and in many instances enable the doctor to pinpoint the source of the trouble. There are geriatric hospitals for the medical care of the aged. This hospital not only looks after old folk who need constant care and attention, but also has a special day hospital for outpatients who are provided with free meals and with transport to and from their homes. In the occupational therapy section, they are also given the opportunity to cultivate new interests. Such activities help them to maintain their sense of usefulness and self-respect, as well as enabling them to make new friends. From the medical viewpoint, one of the main advantages is that it speeds the patient's recovery and enables many to return to their families who would otherwise occupy hospital beds. The gradually increasing proportion of older people in the population brings with it grave social and economic problems. Hospitals such as this one, finely conceived, progressively managed, fulfill our moral obligations to the elderly in both a practical and humane way. Most general hospitals have ophthalmic departments where diseases of the eyes are treated, and the most vital of senses, that of sight, is preserved or improved. Here, the orthoptist is treating children who have disabling squints. And then there are chest clinics, where patients with TB and other chest diseases are supervised. These clinics have far fewer patients nowadays, thanks to new drugs which have completely altered the outlook for these patients. And may I again mention the work of the family doctor, through whom so many medical services are made available. He plays a vital role in ensuring the success of the health service. In fact, general practitioners have been called the frontline troops in the constant fight against disease. A healthy country is a strong and prosperous one. Britain's health service has not only marked an important milestone in the history of social and medical science, it has also helped keep Britain among the foremost progressive nations in the world.